the running back position and kind of doing some research there, I'm seeing maybe the position's a little thin on not necessarily depth. There's guys there, they're not injured, but in terms of returning production, guys that have experience, maybe the running back position not being where people would like it to be.
I think this is another area where being in the Big Ten really changes the calculus. You know, if USC was playing in the Pac-12 this year, I probably would be bullish on Woody Marks getting over 1,000 yards rushing. But I'm going to say he's going to check in at around 850, but he's going to get around 350 receiving yards. So he's going to go over 1,000 all-purpose yards. But I don't think he's going to get 1,000 strictly on the ground, because I think being in the Big Ten, physical football, that schedule is going to be a meat grinder as we get into that Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers. You know, Rutgers being a Friday game, there's going to be a need to manage bodies and keep guys fresh. And so I do think there's going to be a modified approach where USC's not going to lean on one bell cow this year the way it did with Travis Dye in 2022 and Marshawn Lloyd in 2023. I do think there's going to be an attempt to spread the wealth around. And I would say this, I would love to see 4 running backs getting at least 250, 300 yards, with Marks getting 700, 800. Like, that would be the best scenario for USC, rather than just Marks getting his 1,000 and the other guys not really making a significant statistical imprint on the season. Tim, your running back predictions.
Yeah, I don't have SC having 1,000-yard back, but the reason why I don't have them having 1,000-yard back is a little bit different than you, Matt, is because I think the Quentin Joyner, he's going to come in, second-year guy out of Texas, 4-star. Guy's got amazing speed. I think he gets about 650, and then you're looking at about 900 yards. Not going to get to 1,000, but he'll push it during the regular season. I do think. You got to remember, Matt, they're going to open it up. There aren't many teams in the Big Ten that have an offense like Lincoln Riley is going to show the Big Ten. We can sit here and talk about all we want, but Lincoln Riley is not your average offensive coordinator coming into that conference. And so they're going to they might have to drop, 7 guys. They might have to go with a light box in order to handle these wide receivers. And so that's where guys like Woody Marks, and Quentin Joyner, these aren't little individuals, and they're fast. They got great burst, a great step. And I've been talking about this offensive line that's insanely big. So I'm very confident in the running game. The only reason why I wouldn't go higher on this is because I think they're going to split carries. Marshawn Lloyd's going to get the majority, but Quentin Joyner is going to get his fair share to eat. And that's why he probably won't be 1,000. That's the only reason why he won't be 1,000-yard rusher.
Woody Marks is going to get most carries, you mean?
What did I say, Marshawn Lloyd?
Yeah.
Yeah, Woody Marks.
Can't say that I've got much of an opinion on that one. I would think that if you go through Lincoln Riley's resume and look at run-pass ratio, I would think that this team would be somewhere in line with what they've done in the past at Oklahoma, which had extremely strong rushing attacks under Lincoln Riley. In particular, Kennedy Brooks being the last in that line, who had 1,200 or 1,300 yards, but of course was the main guy as opposed to sharing the load. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. We've talked about it for 9 months in regards to the transition of these teams from the Pac-12 into the Big Ten, and which way that some of these battles are going to lean. These Big Ten defenses are going to face 2 offenses in particular with USC and Oregon that are going to be as good as any that they had faced in the past. And of course, we're looking at Columbus, Ohio as being the standard in the conference before that. And USC and Oregon are going to face better defenses than they faced.
And like we've talked about for years now, Mark, your conference will play some better offenses as well. Maybe we'll bring. I think there's going to be a situation where the USC is probably going to come, change their game a little bit. but so is the Big Ten with Oregon and with USC. So yeah, it's gonna be a mix of both. I think the Big Ten's not gonna be the same.
I would just circle back and reiterate, since we're talking about running backs, that if USC scores a given number of touchdowns, how they're divided, how the touchdowns are divided between rushing and passing, like in terms of, when we get into these statistical projections, I think the more of a evenly spread out distribution among various players, and it could be, more receivers catching touchdown passes. It can be more running backs scoring touchdowns. I just think the more the distribution, the better the indicator it will likely be for USC, because, in the Big Ten, one of the things on the USC training camp special on Big Ten Network over the weekend, one of the things Danton Lynn said that caught my eye, caught my ear rather. He said, Danton Lynn said, the Big Ten is more like the NFL, with the personnel, with the physicality, with the styles of play, the styles of offenses. So in light of that, what Danton Lynn said about the Big Ten, it's going to be physically challenging. And so the more guys that are stepping up for USC, that gives us more of a chance to have to throw different weapons at different opponents in different situations. It's going to make USC that much more versatile, that much more difficult to defend, and it would point the arrow most likely upward for the Trojans this season.
Yeah, and more NFL players per team than what the Pac-12 had produced. Wide receiver, I don't think anyone's concerned there. We've got, I believe, the 4 sophomores who lead the group, and I'm a little bit more interested to hear from you guys concerning the distribution of, so there are really good wide receiver cores, but then there are exquisite wide receiver cores, because you've got the guy that can take the top off the defense. You've got the jitterbug in the slot who can just find the speed and space and find the soft spot in the coverage. You got your big physical guy who can high point the defender and box him out. You've got your tight ends who can obviously just be quasi receivers in today's game. So there are talented wide receiver groups out there, but sometimes same body guys that are duplicated. But when they're recruited and developed, the truly best wide receiver cores typically have that variety of guys that can hurt a defense because of those various skill sets in the slot, outside, deep, and short.
Yeah, so in terms of predicting stats for the USC wide receivers, I don't have really precise numbers, but I'm gonna go with leaders in certain categories. So I think that Jacoby Lane, he's gonna lead in yards. Because I think that, in the Holiday Bowl, Jacoby Lane's hands, and that guy has suction cups for hands. So I think Jacoby Lane's going to be the guy who makes that downfield contested catch. And he's going to get a lot of the big downfield home run splash plays for USC. So he's going to be my yards leader. All right. And I think that Mekhi Lemon is going to be the receptions leader. He's going to get the most catches because I think his speed is a difference maker. Not going to compare him to anybody, but I think he's the guy who's going to get open. I think he's going to be the key on, in 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 situations. I think he's going to be the guy who steps up and emerges most prominently. And then touchdowns, probably would give the edge to Lane, but I think that this is where Deuce Robinson could come in. With his kind of hybrid identity, he'll be able to do things down the field. He'll be able to do things in red zone situations. So he's someone to look for. And I would underscore all of this by saying, Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon, I think in practice, they're the 2 guys who've been getting the most mention. And flying under the radar, Zachariah Branch. And in terms of, people will ask, what will raise the ceiling for this team? Well, first off, it's offensive line play. If the offensive line nails it, this team's ceiling soars. But right after that, if Zachariah Branch can really become a star receiver, he's already a star kick returner, but if he can become a polished route runner and be a star receiver, and like he'll be working off of Lane and Lemon, so like that should help him get open. But like if he can really nail down the details, then USC really takes off. Like then this offense can go to the next level. But we haven't seen it yet with Zachariah Branch as a receiver. But that is a plot point to definitely be watching for while Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane get most of the offseason pub.
I'm gonna stick with what I said on the call-in show. It was about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and that's pretty much exactly that. It's the catches are going to be, you're going to see Mekhi Lemon be that guy that's just going to be just doing all the heavy work. You know, he's to be the guy underneath. He's the guy that's going to be able to take the top off the defense that Mark was talking about. Jay Fair is the guy that's going to be able to take the top off the defense. You know, and people don't really, you talk about Deuce Robinson. Deuce Robinson, when he gets moving, he's going to outrun a lot of guys. We saw that in the Holiday Bowl as well. So yards, like totally, if we're talking about total yards, that's so hard, honestly, because like you just said about if Zachariah Branch can turn into it can improve on his route running, he could absolutely be that guy because he has a chance to take it any time he gets the ball. But it's gonna be Mekhi Lemon. I'm sticking with that. I said that he's gonna lead in receptions. Touchdowns is probably gonna be just on the goal line, just the way he can jump and fades. Jacoby Lane's just gonna be a weapon. And that just leaves yards. Man, that could be one of any one of the four, in my opinion, really. I think though it's probably gonna be either Mekhi Lemon or Jacoby Lane that gets yards.
So take this into consideration. Caleb Williams threw for 3,633 yards in 12 games for him. So they threw, once you throw Miller Moss into the mix, they threw for 4,300 yards between the two of them. So think about that when we make our yardage predictions at the quarterback position, that they went for 4,300 plus and 37 touchdowns between the two of them. So the yardage figures for the wide receivers finished like this. You had Taj Washington at 1,062, Brendan Rice at 791, Deuce Robinson 351, Zachariah Branch 320, Mario Williams 305, Dorian Singer 289, Lake McRee 262, and then running backs after that with Marshawn Lloyd.
Well, in terms of statistical comparisons, this season does not start with San Jose State, Nevada, Stanford, Arizona State, and Colorado.
True. I was just laying out, and of course,
Sure.
Caleb Williams,
Sure.
a Heisman Trophy winner the season before, and maybe a little bit more emphasis on running the football this year. Yeah, and better defensive plays on the other side. College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.